Okay, thanks guys. Next up, our 225 session for the Stream 1 for the IRL component here at Marvel Stadium. It's on some themes that we've heard a little bit about previously today, being the Metaverse. We know we're in early days, but also gaming. We've touched on sort of NFT gaming and where all that's going to lie, and we've got a few experts coming up next to discuss it all. So first of all, I'm going to invite our moderator, Lisa Tay, if she's in the audience. Is Lisa here? Lisa is not. Adam Cata. Where's Adam? All right, I'm going to work down the list. We'll find one. Chris Smith. Where's Chris? Who have we got? Oh, Michael. I know you're here. Michael from the Metakey. Come on up, Michael. They're coming? Thanks, Dave. That's all right. No worries. I'll give this a little bit of a reminder too, given Michael's up here on stage from the Metakey. We are giving away one edition for Metakey today and 3 Metacrew. So you're probably going to hear a little bit about the Metacrew from Michael in a minute. We will be giving a Metacrew to someone in the audience today. So if you want to ask some questions throughout, whether it's this panel or a future panel, we are going to pick a winner in here today before the end of the day. And for those watching on the stream, please tweet #BlockchainWeek2022. The 3 best tweets today, judged by myself and Heath Evans, so it's a very subjective winner, will get a Metakey or one of the 2 Metacrews. So with that, Lisa, I'll give you the mic to introduce everybody, and away you go.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for making the time to dial in today for anyone watching from home. And it's really nice to see people, so thanks for coming in real life. My name is Lisa, and I'll be moderating today's panel. I'm the co-founder of Mooning, which is a Web3 marketing agency. Don't worry, you're not going to see my ass. It is actually mooning, but sure, no one wants to see that. But we have a really exciting panel that people are obviously here to see. So. Off to a really bad start. Anyway, I'm going to do my best. I talk really fast, but I know that we have a very short amount of time, so please just have that Oscars music if I end up just waffling for too long and get us off the stage. But really, I almost feel like this is like a dating game show. We've got 3 amazing gentlemen here. We actually did a little bit of a pre-prep talk for this, and we said that we wanted to make this the best panel of the week. So I probably put a lot of pressure on us, but I really feel like you're going to get so much value from these 3 amazing gentlemen. So first up, I'm going to introduce the elusive Michael P. I actually have no idea what Michael's surname is. It's kind of like Madonna. Michael P. He's the community and content lead at the Metakey, and I tried to get an understanding of what exactly the Metakey was, and I said, just give it to me in 1 sentence, and he's like, impossible. Yeah. Not possible. And then he goes, it's an experiment in massive utility and interoperability. I was like, don't give me such a hard word to say. Absolute tongue twister. So I actually got each of the guys to give me a fun fact about themselves. So this really is starting to feel like a dating game show. So Michael's interesting fact was that he's lived on 3 different continents in the past 5 years. So hopefully one of them isn't Antarctica, for your sake. Next up, we have, this is honestly sounding like a game show. Next up, I've got Chris Smith, who's the founder and CEO of Big Esports. Welcome, Chris. And Chris's interesting fact was he was actually in the Air Force Cadets for 6 years, and he was saying that he actually cried on his first day of camp when he was 12, but it turned him from a mummy's boy to a confident leader. So really excited to have you here today. Nothing wrong with mummy's boys. And finally, last but not least, we have Adam Cata, who is Head of Partnerships at Decentraland and founder of Run It Wild. So they do end-to-end delivery of NFT activations. So they actually did the AO Art Wall. So I was actually just heard that Ash Barty retired, so a little bit of news for you. Anyway, okay, so just to kick things off, Michael, I'd love to understand what the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 gaming is. So we're obviously going to be talking about Metaverse and gaming in today's segment, and I know that there's almost like a little bit of a rivalry between both of them, but can you just broadly give us a spiel about the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 gaming?
So we're going to be spilling a little bit of tea here. It's just going to be a little bit spicy. And I'm going to try to keep it nebulous because we've only got 25 minutes here. But a lot of people in our space in the NFT space, in the Web3 space, think that Web2 and Web3 in relation to gaming are sort of diametrically opposed or mutually exclusive. And they're not. They're really, really not. A lot of the things that we are doing in Web3 are sort of reinventing the wheel, right? There's a lot of people, I think in the NFT space, a lot of projects and stuff that are trying to reinvent the wheel, that are doing things under the banner of this idea of a metaverse, right? That have been done in the gaming space for 20 years. And a lot of gamers, a lot of people in Web2 gaming are sort of looking at that and they're saying like, okay, well, what is the metaverse? Is it just an MMORPG? Because we have that. Is it just having customizable avatars that we can use in games and across different spaces? Because we already have that. So the difference for me, the key difference at the moment, and I think something that might be kind of lost on a lot of people and something that we really, really need to kind of hone in on is interoperability. Is the idea that the difference is that Web3 is breaking down silos, and in the case of, say, your customizable avatar, it's like you can take that into multiple different games across multiple different publishers, across multiple different platforms that are existing in what would be in Web2 completely different ecosystems that are all built on the blockchain. That's sort of the main benefit of it. Everything else, at least according to a lot of Web2 gamers, they'll look at a lot of the other stuff that a lot of people are doing in this space right now, and they'll say, that is redundant, that doesn't need to be an NFT. And the big challenge for us at the Metakey is to be able to kind of look at things and be like, does this need to be an NFT? Does this need to be a separate NFT? Is this something that we can kind of fold into the Metakey, that we can offer to people through that service? Or do we need to add extra layers of interoperability here to actually make that benefit of something being an NFT, of something actually being Web3, to make that relevant?
Do you feel like there's always going to be that divide between Web 2 and Web 3, or do you think eventually all games are going to be built on blockchain?
I think that the divide will be broken down when we stop talking about Web 2 and Web 3, when we stop talking about NFTs, when we stop talking about metaverses, plural, and we just accept that these are just assets, these are just games. And yeah, that eventually our goal and where we should all be aiming is that everything does have NFTs integrated and everything is built on blockchain, but not just for the sake of being NFTs, not just for like a new avenue of monetization, but because it's actually using utilities, using like specifically interoperability and providing something to players that couldn't be done in Web 2.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I'm sure a lot of you saw last year that the CEO of Discord actually tweeted that there was going to be some interaction. I think, well, he was planning on integrating MetaMask into Discord, and I think his tweet was something like probably nothing, but it turned out to be probably something because everyone cracked it in the gaming community. So they then came out and said, oh, don't worry, we're not going to be integrating anything, any sort of NFT or wallet integration into Discord for a very long time. So, I guess that still almost creates that bit of divide. Like, what do you think as a community we can be doing to actually try and bridge that gap and get the people who are firmly in Web 2 to go, hey, this is the future, come on board?
So if we're talking specifically about gaming and gamers, those of you who are sort of in that space, or those of you who are gamers yourselves, you probably noticed in like most gaming spaces, most gaming communities, they categorically hate NFTs at the moment. And the issue for us is, I think in this space we get extremely defensive, right? And we say like, oh, they just don't get it. They'll come around. They just need to sort of understand. And the problem is partly that a lot of like gaming media and a lot of gaming influencers at the moment are sort of massively incentivized to kind of sling against NFTs. But the fact of the matter is that they're right in a lot of senses. When gamers are saying things like NFTs are scams, if you have a look at your Discord right now, I guarantee you've probably got like 2 or 3 DMs from bots that are trying to shake you out of your wallet phrase. And we need to accept and we need to reconcile with the fact that right now, a lot of these projects are scams. And the people that are sort of building genuine things still have a huge number of challenges kind of in building in this space. And we need to sort of reconcile with that. And as I was saying before, like there's a lot of people in the gaming space that are saying a lot of these things don't need to be NFTs. Like in a lot of cases, these are redundant, and we need to pay attention to that. We need to reconcile with that. And we need to sort of be putting our best foot forward and making sure that we're like meeting the best practices to be able to onboard these people, I think. And that's basically the whole goal of the Metakey, is to try and do that, is to try and really hone in on interoperability and like massive utility and doing the stuff that you actually do need NFTs to be able to do.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Michael. If you see Michael walking around, he's actually got a box of merchandise, so feel free to harass him.
If you have a Metakey.
You didn't bring it up on stage and you're like, you can have a hat, you can have a hat. But thank you, Michael. That was fantastic insight. So, Chris, I know that you're massive into the esports game, the esports scene, and I actually saw a really interesting post on your LinkedIn the other day, and it was around esports, and you were, putting to your audience whether they thought esports was actually going to be, or whether esports teams would reach a higher valuation than your traditional sports team. So I'd love for you to discuss that and let us know what your opinions are.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, touching on some of the stuff that was just talked about as well around where, I guess, Web 2 and Web 3, and I wanted to just touch on that before going to the question. The esports industry was exactly the same for a long time. There was a lot of revenue missing from that industry, and influencers saw this before, because the start of every single conversation was always, what is an influencer, what do they do? What is esports, what do they do? But now we're seeing in global marketing companies, influencer is a line item in there. Esports is starting to become a line item. So whether you want to call it blockchain, Metaverse, Web 3.0, whatever, when that starts becoming a line item, then we go past kind of that step. But in regards to, will esports teams be valued at more than sports teams at the moment? Esports is a really exciting industry. To be honest, it's not where most of our revenue comes from. And when you look at the size of the markets, gaming, just video games as a whole, is, depending who you ask, somewhere between $150 to $175 billion global market, which is bigger than movies and music combined. When you look at esports, it's about 1.1 billion inside that market. So esports is often a loss leader. It's a marketing play to get people to play your video game. It's to keep people inside your ecosystem, to enhance their experience, but also to attract new people into that space. Exactly the same reason I play a game called Dota 2. Just last year, they had a $40 million tournament. Only 1.6 million of that came from the developer, Valve. The rest actually came from the community through purchasing in-game items. Exactly something that an NFT or a Web 3.0 project could do, and I think they should definitely do. So esports teams are exciting. They're raising lots of money at the moment. There's plenty of teams doing $40 million Series A, B, Cs. There's FaZe Clan. I saw someone walking out of here before with a FaZe t-shirt on. They're planning to SPAC at around $1 billion, including cash in bank as a whole at the moment. So esports is growing, and it's hard to say exactly where it's going to be. Right now, still, if you look at that, the biggest esports teams are valued somewhere, depending who you ask, nobody agrees, depends what VCs you talk to. The biggest esports teams can be anywhere between 150 million to 300-400 million. So we're not quite hitting that part where some of these traditional sports teams think about how much an F1 team simply spends on research and development. Often that's more than what an entire esports team is valued at. So there's a while to get there, but I don't think there's going to be as much a distinction in the future. Just like we're talking about Web 2 versus Web 3, it's not going to be esports versus sports. It's just going to be sports as a whole. I think PSG, they're probably the most obvious example of that. They've got an esports team in Hong Kong, which is Talon they're partnered with. There's an esports team in China, which they're partnered with, as well as they have a judo team and a handball team. So it's all just going to be wrapped up into one in the future.
Fantastic. I actually was talking to someone recently, and they said that at their primary school, they're now offering esports as well as normal sports, which is really interesting and gives hope for really uncoordinated people like me. So just to wrap up quickly your segment, Chris, I'd actually love to know about how brands can use gaming influencers, because I saw a post on your LinkedIn the other day, and I think it was someone who's a Twitch influencer was getting paid, I don't know, $2 or $4 million a month. And I'm like, I definitely need to just quit my job and go and just sit on Twitch all day, because that's a lot of money. So how can brands be actually utilising these influencers?
Yeah, so with a few of our clients that we're doing work with, we give them access to what we call like Western whale influencers. So one of the most common influencer trends in the market is to work with Southeast Asian influencers with play-to-earn games. Obviously in SEA, that's where a lot of the players are. But if you're wanting to attract people to participate in IDOs, you're wanting to participate in ICOs, NFT whitelists, etc., that's usually where you go more towards the West. So people are using these Western influencers not necessarily necessarily for their audience specifically, but they're using them to add some clout, to build some hype, to be able to raise off VCs, to be able to get that original money through from the community, to then invest more heavily into getting the long-term users into their platform. And that's a lot of the work that we're doing specifically with crypto companies. I think everyone has probably experienced this in some form or another here. Crypto companies often work fantastically when it's a team of 3, and they try to work the same way when they scale to a team of 10, 15, 20, etc. We have an old client of ours who has a 250K a month burn, so you can understand how many staff they have. Trying to operate like a 3-person company, it just simply doesn't work. So with a lot of these kind of companies, to reiterate like what I said, they're working with these large Western whale influencers, which are often people with 5 million followers or more on one single platform, maybe 15 to 25 million followers across multiple platforms like YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, etc., to bring a lot of that legitimacy to the mainstream market. The problem is it comes from the other side, like what Michael was talking about, is influencers are scared of being attached to certain NFT type projects too, because it can go belly up. There are some players in the space who are really pushing that though. So Dr. Disrespect is a massive one. He's a big persona. He looks like he's from the 80s. He has this massive moustache. He always wears these funny headsets and does these really funny plays when he's on his stream. But he's launched his own game development company, and they're launching into the Web3 space. They've launched a foundation NFT, which has been claimed by a lot of people. So there's some people bucking the trend. But, you know, this is where we need to go in the future. Unfortunately, it's been plagued by some scams in the past, but esports is exactly the same. E-commerce is exactly the same. Every industry is the same. It's just the people are trying to figure themselves out as they go along, and there's definitely bigger things. And to the post that you were talking about specifically, there's a streamer called Trainwrecks TV. That's his username. And at the moment, he's working with a crypto gambling company. They're paying him $1 million a week to expose them. He gets about 30 to 50,000 concurrent viewers on Twitch. Just by himself, plus he's got a few million followers on Twitter, a few million on Instagram, et cetera, and he hit a $13.95 million jackpot on stream the other week, which I'm sure got him pretty hyped.
That's crazy. So I think we all need to take away from today's panel the fact that we need to get on Twitch ASAP. So thanks, Chris. Those are fantastic insights. And last but not least, Adam. So Adam, actually, I don't think I said your interesting fact, which is that you collected all first edition Shadowless Pokemon base set circa
No way.
200 in 2000.
Still, it's.
Where
Can you
are
show
they?
me? But I don't know where it is.
Oh no! If they were an NFT, then you know wouldn't have this problem. But obviously, as head of partnerships at Decentraland, it must be a really interesting time for you because so many brands are entering the metaverse. So, and we've been talking to a lot of people about entering the space and what they should actually do. So what tips do you have for brands who are actually looking to potentially activate the metaverse or buy land?
Yeah, I think, look, over the last 14 months, it's been a really interesting time. You know, like I remember onboarding Sotheby's, a 250-year-old auction house that wanted to sort of connect to a community of like-minded individuals. And at the time, most other IP or IP holders or brands were considering what is NFTs rather than, you know, like what's a virtual experience and what is Web3 at that point in time. So it's really no different from having an Instagram page, a Facebook, a Twitch, a Twitter account, TikTok, Snapchat, LinkedIn profile, all associated to one IP where, you know, when you think about a virtual environment, here's a like-minded audience that you can connect to, build community with, experience and explore, educate current audiences, and find new ones. So I think we're in an early stage of just testing and building case studies in real time. Ultimately, you know, there are brands that are more open to doing it than others. We're hosting currently a fashion week, which is crazy to think that Dolce & Gabbana to, you know, even a store like Forever New to, you know, other Web3 marketplaces like Wearable, etc., are all mixed into one experience, you know, with an after party with Grimes. It's, you know, all in 2022. So I think, interestingly, you know, we've probably taken a 101 approach to what socials are and, you know, social platforms in general. And if we had the time again 10 years ago, I'm sure most brands and IP would have tried to push corporate affairs to approve their Facebook page at the time and build a community quicker. Where here, I think a lot more are open to just trialing and testing. Decentraland specifically is an interesting project on the basis that it's on the notion of decentralization, not just because it's on a transparent ledger, but because the servers are owned by the community, the landowners and token holders have true governance over the platform, and there's a treasury within a DAO that has over $130 million US that any developer, content creator, designer or other can apply for up to 240 grand, and the community can approve that. It's pretty interesting and intriguing about what it could be in the future. But for brands themselves, you know, the Australian Open is probably a great case study in general. It's a 14-day tournament. They elevated their experience in the virtual environment by connecting to a community that would buy their NFTs on Ethereum. They obviously had a really great project that I'm probably biased about, but then the other side of it being that, you know, they were able to sort of acknowledge the, you know, that there's a case study that and plenty of learnings that came from it too. So yeah, between like Coca-Cola to Samsung to what else? Like, yeah, so Sotheby's, all the brands that you'll probably see this weekend if you want to go and check it out. It's an intriguing time, but I think building in real time and building case studies in real time, a lot of the Web3 community are forgiving, but if you use it to educate current audiences to see their first experience into a platform and what Michael's team at the Metakey keep continuing to talk about, which is interoperability, utility and benefits to holding a digital wallet and what it holds inside, I think we can continue to bridge the gap.
Yeah, it's actually such an interesting time because, you know, even just buying land or registering trademarks now counts as like PR-worthy news, whereas, you know, if you started an Instagram now, no one would actually give a crap. So, you know, I think if you want a free kick from a marketing perspective, you know, just buy a plot of land next to Snoop Dogg, but I guess that would set you back quite a bit of money. But yeah, if you've got $500,000, then definitely do that. Just to finish up, I can see the countdown timer. So in like a couple of sentences, Adam, in terms of social media, I've seen quite a number of differences between Web 2 versus Web 3. What are your tips for if brands want to actually stand out in the Web 3 space in social?
I think it's connecting to current communities that understand Web 3, whatever that definition may be at this time. Our clients are, you know, outside of Decentraland, we work with Linktree. We're developing a strategy for go-to-market and all their tooling. So I think, you know, when considering what the value proposition would be, it's not about like buying a land and saying that you're in the Metaverse, more so like building a case study and experiencing it, or adding and offering different utility like what Shopify have really recently done, where if you hold a particular NFT in your wallet, you can get access to particular products that you wouldn't be able to get access to otherwise. And that's an offering that sort of, 58 seconds. Yeah, it's something that kind of, you know, makes you reflect on the fact that what the internet was when it first came out and, you know, where we are today. You don't have to sign in with your username and password anymore. Your identity is verified by a digital wallet. And what's in your wallet will verify what access and gated communities you can get into, so what gated links you can get into. And I think that power of just that and exploring how that may be possible within educating your audience whilst connecting to a new one can help. So yeah, I'd say just try, test, but understand the market and yeah.
Fantastic. Look, I think, you know, the key takeaway that I've taken from today's session is that it's such a unique moment in the market. And, you know, I'm pretty old thinking back to the dawn of social media, but, you know, it took a lot of brands so long to jump on board and actually, you know, create Instagram pages, create Facebook pages. Like, we're actually at a time where you can jump on board now and be one of the first to move, not only in Australia, but around the globe. So, you know, for me, I think that's a really exciting opportunity, and I hope all of you take it. You know, even if it's just buying your first NFT or exploring the blockchain or going to the Metaverse, you know, I think Web3 is such an exciting space, and I know that all of us here today are really excited to be a part of it. So massive thanks. Doing the countdown timer, it's throwing me off my game. But massive thanks to everyone for taking the time to watch today's panel. Big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
In my completely unbiased opinion, I reckon these guys are the best panel of the week. But if you want to see more of these guys, check them out on LinkedIn. You can also follow them on Twitter. So maybe do you want to say your Twitter handles?
At the Metakey. Follow us.
Smithy Mayo on LinkedIn and Twitter.
At Run It Wild.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody.